I'll put the question. The question is that the question be now put. Those of that opinion will say aye. Contrary, no. The ayes have it. So the question is that clause 6 stand part. Those of that opinion will say aye. Contrary, no. The ayes have it. The question now is that clause 7 stand part.
Chairman.
Honourable Pete Hodgson.
Clause 7 is a long clause. It details the functions of the Royal Society, in part by, I suppose, many cases just adding the word "and humanities." But it means that the work of the Royal Society now increases significantly because the humanities is a significant addition to what is already going on. Let me give the House a couple of examples. The first would be, say, in the management of various awards, the Rutherford Award, the Pickering Award, the Thompson Award, and many, many other awards that are sought and given under the aegis of the Royal Society on an annual basis. These are highly contested. They are prestigious in this world of science, and one needs to be a scientist or understand a bit about scientists to understand why they are so prestigious. They are often a thing which either drives a scientist or makes a scientist feel well respected in the eyes of his or her peers. And that peer review, that peer acceptance, that peer acknowledgement is often much, much more important to a scientist than anything to do with money or status or title or whatever. It's what drives many scientists. It just is. And so it is reasonable that the Royal Society should be responsible for managing the allocation of those various medals. There's another thing the Royal Society does, or at least it does indirectly, and that is that it manages the Marsden Fund. Now, actually, there's a council which is appointed by the Minister which manages the Marsden Fund, but the link between the Marsden Fund and the Royal Society is so close that it's best to not bother distinguishing one from the other. And the Marsden Fund is a pot of money which everyone says is too small, and everyone doesn't want to get any bigger, or at least not too much bigger too quickly. And the reason for that sort of dichotomous approach, it's too little but don't make it too big, the reason for that is that the Marsden Fund is itself a prestigious fund, and a Marsden Award is a prestigious award, and people put them on their CVs. And if Marsden Awards were freely available, then everyone would be able to put them on their CVs, and that would lower the currency a bit. But there's another reason why the Marsden Fund shouldn't get hugely big. I guess some people are listening to this and saying, oh, that's why that guy Hodgson, when he was Minister, never did make it that much bigger when we wanted him to. Actually, it went up by 90% while I was Minister, but not 190%. Because the success rate is still only about 10 or 12%, nearly 5. OK, well then it must be 5 to 10. All right, well that's what your notes say. It's dropped away even more. That means that the vast majority of the folk who apply for a Marsden Fund grant do not get one. And in a way, we need to remember that because the Marsden Fund is not based on relevance to New Zealand society, but only on excellence, that means that an irrelevant topic can be studied so long as the proposal is excellent and so long as the researcher is excellent. And that means that every year some journalist says that there's going to be, for example, $300,000 given over, the last one I remember reading, into the study of moth genitals. And we're all supposed to laugh like drains because it's Chris Hipkins is away already. He's got it. He's going to crack a joke about mothballs before long. Let's see. Let's see how long it takes him. But the point of it is that sort of weird and wonderful research enables excellent researchers to follow their dream, not to follow what someone else says is relevant. And out of that comes sometimes serendipity serendipitous results that are of value, and the Marsden Fund is alive and well with examples of that. But also comes a scientist who becomes committed to a research career. So especially scientists who are in their late 20s or early 30s, if they pick up a Marsden Fund, they feel as if they've reached a bit of quality and they're off and away on their career. Mr. Chairman.
Right, we'll take another call. Honourable Pete Hodgson.
I do apologise, Mr. Chairman, but thank you very much for your generosity. Now, the Royal Society oversees that stuff. And it's really interesting because the Royal Society is itself made up of excellent researchers. This could be a den of iniquity. This could be a den of backhanding. This could make FIFA look like something that's, amateurish. But it does not happen. Well, think about it. Think about it. The only people who are qualified to decide who is an excellent researcher are excellent researchers. And so if they're not conflicted, they are no good to us. That's the truth of it. And so I don't think that is funny. I mean, I'm honestly, that's how I see it. And so the question is, how does one maintain the integrity of a situation under those circumstances without, the word getting around that someone's brother-in-law got what they shouldn't have got? Well, all I can say is that has never come across my desk. I do when the Honourable Stephen Mahari was Minister of Science for a couple of years, I think he ran into a bit of it. Well, an allegation that others said had absolutely no substance. But the allegations themselves are rare. So how is it that very clever people will decide which of those very clever people or other very clever people are going to get a bunch of money, because they do, without it becoming an issue of conflict of interest? One other thing. The Marsden Fund has for years supported humanities. It might have decided to fund research into mothballs, but it also will fund research, if it wants to, into ancient Icelandic. And so too the criteria is only one of excellence. And so for years, long before this legislation came into the hands of Grant Robertson, long before it came before the House, the humanities part of the Royal Society's function has been, in a way, manifest through its very close neighbour, the Marsden Fund and Marsden funding process. The Royal Society is generally responsible for housing. The Marsden Fund committees, the tea and the coffee, generally responsible for putting the names up to the Minister of the day as to who should go on these or that, this or that committee. They just kind of circulate it around. And all of the while that I can remember being a minister, there was some monies there for humanities. So there is a bit of a track record here that science money coming from Vote Science, has ended up in the hands of humanities researchers. Now, humanities scholars would say not enough. They would say seriously not enough. But it doesn't alter the fact that we've been doing this a little bit for some time. And it may now mean that the emphasis on the Marsden Fund distribution heads a little more towards humanities. I don't want to dictate that to the folk who are going to be appointed to that, or indeed, offer any advice to any present or future minister. I'm just saying it seems possible. So there are a couple of the functions. Now, there are many other functions listed. They're listed in the legislation, and I am sure that other colleagues will want to express them or explore them. But I want to say in conclusion that in respect of the government's interaction with the Royal Society, 20 years ago when Simon Upton was looking what to do with the Royal Society, trying to work out what to carve out its niche, which he finally did in the legislation called the Royal Society of New Zealand Act 1997. Way back then, it was unclear what its role would be. And since that time, it has developed a series of roles, including advisory roles to the government, which I'm sure other members will speak about, which means that we can't easily do without them. And not only do we want them, we now need them. So that, I think, is something that needs to be said in the Royal Society's favour. And for those who think that it's a bunch of people who are fuddy-duddy and sandal-wearing, this is no longer the truth and had not been the truth for at least the time that I've been in Parliament.
Lewis Wall.